Hello students, welcome to our next lecture of the VNGP lecture series, that is on the maintenance and overloading of differential and the axle. Right, whenever we are talking about the differential and axle, it will be about the rear wheel drive, which means the front engine rear wheel drive, in which the propeller shaft has been provided, and from the propeller shaft the differential is being operated, and from the differential the component is sending the power to the axle part, and then axle further transmit the power to the wheels and tires. Now in this case we will learn about the differential maintenance as well as the rear axle maintenance. So let's start with that. The first thing we need to look out is the exploded view of the rear axle whenever we are using the rear wheel drive with the front engine layout. Now in this figure you can see the rear axle has been dismantled and all the components from it has been kept in a disassembled view. You can see the gears of the differential, the 4 gears that are the spiral gears of the differential. Also there will be a final drive which consists of the 2 gears. One is the ring gear and second is the pinion gear. Pinion gear transmits the power from the propeller shaft towards the ring gear, and ring gear further rotates the gears of the differential, and differential further transmits the power to the wheels and tires of the rear axle. The cover of the rear axle has been kept on differential and axle as well. Axle will be called as the live axle in case of this design. Now let's see some steps of the diagnosis for differential and rear axle. For that, first thing will be the differential gears on the rear wheel drive that will rarely wear out. Like the gears of the differential rear wheel drive will rarely wear out because the torque transmission and the power on those gears are not as much as the gearbox, so that there will be a lesser amount of the wear in case of the gears of differential. Now the causes of the damage to the gears can happen because of the moisture or dirt if the cover is not being properly insulated from the atmosphere, and if the driver is a rough driver or the differential is facing the abuse from the driver. It means the driver is driving the vehicle very roughly, then it can also create problems to the gears of the differential as well. Also, there are some times of the gear ratio getting changed in the normal position, right? The gear ratio which we require getting changed in case of the differential. And in that case, we will always have to disassemble the differential gears, and the gear ratio will have to be reset once again. Next thing is the diagnosis of the problems in case of the differentials. So problems related to the spider gears. Spider gears are the 4 gears which are given inside the differential. That can happen because of if the pinion gears are too tight on the shaft, or the side gears are too tight or too loose in the differential case, or the excessive backlash has been provided between the spider gears. The detail about the backlash will be learned in the next video. For that we will see how to control the backlash, how to adjust the backlash, and what is the purpose of giving the backlash to the gears of differential. And next thing is the lubricant leak. Right, the lubricant will be filled in the differential case inside the rear axle housing, and that is generally not going to be any problem if there is no big leakage in case of the differential lubrication. Next thing is the diagnosis for the axle bearing. Now axle bearing is the bearing which is connected at both the end of the axles and which will be further connected to the wheels. Also it can result in the fluid leak or the bearing noise. If the axle bearing has been damaged, then it can result in the fluid leak or the bearing noise in that case. Important consideration by keeping in mind whenever we are doing the axle bearing diagnosis. For that case, we will drive the vehicle that can give you the problem location, or that can show you how the problem is occurring. we will raise the vehicle after the road test so that we will know, we will have the colleague to run the engine while we are raising the vehicle. After we will engage the transmission, the carrier bearings and the pinion bearings will make constant sound. If they are damaged, then in this condition, if we are driving the vehicle, then the carrier bearings and the pinion bearings will make a constant sound. The limited slip differential can make a chattering sound while taking a turns. Right, so that is normal if we are using the limited slip differential. The next thing is the axle bearing service. Now, in case of the axle bearing service, what we have to do is that we have to first, the sealed rear axle bearing needs to be removed if there is any problem. There is no service interval. Axle remove is required and press work is usually done by parts business or the machine shop. Repair, how to repair the axle seal, that requires the removal of the axle from the differential. After that only we can remove the axle seal. So now we will see the bearing and seal replacement of the axle. How to replace the bearing. So in this video you can see that the roller bearing which is used in the end of the axle will first be removed from inside the axles. To remove the axle, first the seal will be removed. What he is doing is he is removing the seal from the bearings. So right now he is just removing the seal from the bearing. After removal of the seal will be kept aside, and after that the bearing can be removed by the help of a special bearing puller. Right, just you can see that it is hard to remove the seal. This has been removed now. Now this type of puller will be required to remove the bearings. It will just be inserted in there, then it will be just adjusted by opening its flanges, and it will be closed with the help of nut. After closing, it will slightly be pulled with little force one by one. Right, we will pull the bearing from it. Just by pulling, the bearing will come out with number of pulls, and this is how the bearing will come out with the help of this special puller. Now what we have to do is that we have to put the new bearing in place of the old bearing. We have removed the old bearing. Now we will put the new bearing in place of that old bearing. So the next thing we need to do is we need to insert the new bearing. This new bearing has been kept on the puller once again, and that puller will be entered inside the hole, and the bearing will be replaced by this simple method. Right, you can see now that the bearing has been inserted, and it will again be pushed by continuously pushing, same as the pulling. This time we are pushing the bearing inside, not pulling the bearing. So this is how continuously pushing the bearing will enter in the hole that has been required to be filled by the help of this bearing. So this is how the bearing has been replaced. Whenever we replace the bearing or we place the new bearing in case, then after that always we also need to replace the seal on the bearing as well. Like the bearing seal will also have to be replaced. Just what he is doing is that he is providing the lubrication to the bearing. Whenever we are replacing, the new lubrication will be provided in the bearing. After that, the new seal, you can see now the new seal has been put in the place of the old seal, and that seal will generally be fitted with the help of a simple hammer. Next thing is to remove the rear axle. Right? How to remove the rear axle from the vehicle? For that, first we will block the front wheels and we will loosen the rear wheel nuts and jack up the rear end of the car. We will put the screw jack in rear of the car. After that, what we will do is we will disconnect the shock absorber at top and place support under the car. After that, we will disconnect the parking brake and brake line from the axle casing, and we will remove the bolts which are holding the propeller shaft to the flange. After, we will remove all the accessory which is connected to the rear axle, and after lowering the jack, we will pull the axle out of the rear end. So after removing all the components attached to the rear axle, we can easily remove the axle from the casing. Right, this is how fast the wheel will come out, all the components will be kept, the nuts has been rusted, so we are providing the oil on that so we can easily remove it whenever required. Now what he's doing is he's removing the shock absorber, the strut of the shock absorber is being removed first. Next thing will be to remove the shock absorber. Right, what he is doing is he is removing the shock absorber which is connected with the rear axle assembly. After that, the propeller shaft will be disconnected. Now what is disconnecting is the propeller shaft, that is a drive shaft. The drive shaft will be disconnected, the flange end of the propeller shaft will be disconnected from the rear axle. Right, just removing the nut and we will easily be removing the propeller shaft from the rear axle. After removing the propeller shaft from the rear axle, what we need to do next is we need to remove the parking brake. Right, what he is doing now is removing the parking brakes lines. Right, what he is doing is that he will just cut the brakes and he will provide the new brake lines. Next thing he will do is that he will cut the brake lines and he will provide the new brake lines whenever the installation will be done, which is an easier part compared to the whole process of removing the brakes. Right, now the bolts will be opened, and after opening the bolts, the rear axle can be pulled out from the assembly. Right, so this is how the rear axle has been removed from the system. Next thing will be to removal of the differential from the rear axle housing. Right, what we did is that we remove the rear axle. Now we need to remove the differential from it. So first we will have to remove the axle cover by keeping the pan for the oil collector. After that we will remove the flange that is connected to the bevel pinion. Then the remove cross pin which is attached to the carrier of the differential. After that we will remove the half shafts from both the sides. After we will remove the straps of the carrier so that the gears can be removed. And after removing the straps, the differential assembly can be taken out by simply hand from it. After, at the last, we will remove the bevel pinion from the back of the axle housing. So let's see an example of how to remove the differential from the rear axle. First, the cover will be opened by removing all the nuts. Whenever we open the cover, the pan should be kept in below the differential so that whenever the oil comes out of it, we can collect it in a container that can be used again whenever we are installing the differential. Right, so you can see now that after removal of the cover, the oil will be drained in a pan which is kept just for the storing of that oil which is used for the differential. Next thing to do after removing the cover is to just remove the bevel pinion bolt from the bottom side. Right, you can now see the open differential which is being used with the rear axle. This is the type of a simple open differential. You can see 4 gears with one big ring gear in that. The bevel pinion will be on the back side. Now what we need to do is we need to remove the cross pin. Cross pin will be removed by removing the bolt, and the cross pin can be removed from that. After the removal of the cross pin, the two shafts can be taken out. Right, generally you can see the cross pin can be removed just by the hand force after removing the nut. So this is how the cross pin has been removed. After removing the cross pin, now we can see that two half shafts has been kept aside because it was been attached by the help of two U-pins which was connected with the cross shaft. Now just by pushing from the one end, we are just removing those cross pins which was in place when we are removing the cross pin. So after removing those C-clips, we will be easily able to remove the two half shafts from both the ends. He has removed the half shaft from the one end. Right, this is how the shaft will look like. The second shaft will be easily removed like this as well. Now you can see that the shafts was kept in a place with the help of two C-clips. Right, this type of C-clip was used to keeping in place the two half shafts whenever we were using the half shafts. So this two half shaft was connected with that. Now the nut will be removed of the bevel pinion, which was the end of the propeller shaft, and that bevel pinion will be removed by removing the nut. That bevel pinion is getting rotated after whenever we are removing the nut. We will have to apply an extra force with the help of hammer, and the bevel pinion cover or the yoke end of the propeller shaft is removed after that. After, what we need to do is we need to remove the cages or the straps which is connected to our gears. Right, the carrier straps will be removed. This is how the straps will come out from the system. Right, this is how the two straps will come out from the system. Just by removing the straps, now the assembly of the differential can be easily taken out just by a simple hand pulling. Right, you can see now that he has just removed the differential assembly. You can now see inside the bevel pinion gear, which is connected to our ring gear. That bevel pinion gear will be pushed out from the backward side, and that bevel pinion gear will be detached from the system. That can easily be done with the little force of the hammer, and that bevel pinion will be removed by just the force of that hammer. So this is how the whole differential can be disassembled with a simple procedure. So in this video we saw about the removal of the rear axle, the removal of the differential. In the next video further we will see about the disassembly of the differential, and then we will see about the assembly of the differential and then the rear axle. Also we will learn about the backlash in the differential. Until then, thank you so much.